thank you and welcome back. So we had great sessions and Jeff Hammond is back with us. So we're going to be talking valves with SRI and Del West. John, do you want to tell us a little bit what's coming up this afternoon before we get started?
Sure. Following the webinar with SRI, we'll go on to speed diagnostics, so used oil analysis. And again, that's another one to tune into. Lake Speed Jr. is hosting that. And Lake really knows kind of the nuts and bolts of daily life for a racer. And the idea of used oil analysis can help everybody. Then we'll go into race shop machinery with Tammy Baker, Joe Baker Equipment Sales. Chuck Tate, Digital Momentum. We'll talk about marketing in the digital age. And then we'll get to crankshafts, connecting rods, rotating assemblies with SCAT, which is just a great company. Excuse me, great people. Tom Lieb, awesome. And then a special panel on the media and racing will close us off at the 5 o'clock hour here, Pacific time.
Very good, excellent. But thank you, John. We have been, running those sessions by the minute. We're very thankful of SRI. Working with them for many years. They came on board to support EPARTRADE early on. So we're very thankful of you guys. As we say often, it's because of all of you, the suppliers out there that have been supporting this platform, that we have been able to grow it to what it is today and to produce this wonderful online race industry week for the first time ever. And so without any further, it is 1 o'clock. Right on the minute. So Jeff Hammond, on to you, and see you guys in 50 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. Excuse me. I'll choke up here. Hey, Chad.
How's it going, Jeff?
Long time no see, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's been a while. And I haven't had the privilege of meeting you, Guido. How you doing today?
Doing all right. Nice to meet you virtually as well here, Jeff.
Yeah, good. So, Chad, what do you think about this idea of what we got going on here at EPARTRADE and Racer.com has got going on as far as this program and the online racing industry week we have so far? So I have had a blast, and I'm really glad that I'm into my day here on the 4th day of this event, getting a chance to talk to somebody that goes back to a man that I love dearly and miss very much, and your father. Harold Elliott. It's great to have an opportunity to speak with you.
Well, I really appreciate those kind of words about my father. We miss him as well. I think this week has been great, very informative with everything going on, with the COVID situation, the fact that we could all get together virtually, learn about what's new, what's coming, what's going on in the racing world. It's good to stay connected because it's been really tough to get out, especially for me, someone that travels the country and goes to races. This is the only way I've been able to connect with a lot of people. So I'm truly excited and learned a lot so far this week.
So Guido, what do you think about all of this so far? Is this going to be what I believe the future of the industry?
So we've, of course, had our struggles here as well with the whole COVID-19 thing, where we saw it drying up, and especially on the race side. What was remarkable here is that actually the series production side, the other division that we're heavily involved in on series production titanium valves, that actually had a very, very brief interruption and came back stronger than we expected. They are at levels beyond 2019. So we see that going strong, so that's a good thing. But racing is coming back a lot slower because of the shutdowns, because of the repeated shutdowns, and that is affecting the gatherings, the race venues internationally. So it's not only in the South here on NASCAR level or local race level, it's internationally where we're seeing that the volumes are down. Will it come back? Very likely. So hopefully we will get this under control early or mid 2021. And then with respect to customer visits, yeah, it's virtual. I used to be traveling frequently across the globe, and now it's staying here at my screen. Good for family time, but sometimes I'm missing the travels.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I mean, I couldn't believe that we've been able to accomplish all that we've accomplished, because I was involved with the truck series this year and do as many races as we did and one day shows. I mean, it was pretty phenomenal because as Chad understands, more times than not, when you go to the racetrack, you're there 3 days or longer. So it's a good way to approach everything. Well, let's get into what you guys have got for us today. Chad, open it up and just tell me what's going on over at SRI and what the relationship with Del West is and how all the different products I'm sure you're ready to put out in front of us today.
Yeah, SRI and Del West have had a long-term partnership as the master distributor for their automotive performance valves, even back when we were owned by Roush Yates Performance Parts. So our relationship is more than just a vendor slash distributor relationship. Obviously, our job is to produce the best quality Valvetrain products on the market. We believe Del West does that. I think most people would agree with that. What we do is bridge the gap between the racer and the manufacturer. And they're like family. Guido is like a brother to me. We get at each other's throats, but we also get things done. You know what it's like being around engine builders. We're demanding. We want what we want when we want it, and we want it to be right. I would say that Del West Engineering, out of all the vendors that we work with, that I work with here at SRI on the engine side, by far our best partnership. They do a great job. They produce quality parts at a fair price. But the big thing is they produce what I think is the best product on the market.
Well, that's quite flattering to hear that, Chad. Thank you very much on so many levels.
Yeah, it's very true. If you're gonna believe in a product, you and be successful, you have to believe in it. You have to believe in it, and I think that you guys have done a great job educating us as to the processes, the technology, the material, and especially your coating. And I think we're going to get into that as we talk further here from a technical vantage point about some of your processes and coatings.
So, as we get into the deal, let's be realistic. I mean, a lot of times people look at the Valvetrain area as one of the most vulnerable parts of an engine. I mean, the bottom end nowadays is everybody pretty much says it's bulletproof. If you're going to have a problem, it's usually going to happen in the Valvetrain area, between a spring or a valve. Mm-hmm. And so, Guido, how do you approach that kind of pressure on your company to produce a product that everybody readily agrees it's kind of like the heartbeat of an engine to a certain degree? It's what makes everything open and shut and flow and make power. And a lot of people are always ready to come right there and say, it's that dang valve, it's this and this and this, they didn't do something right. And so how do you respond to that?
Yeah, the thing you don't want to hear on the TV is they dropped the valve. Mm-hmm. So then it immediately goes back to the valve, and the valve is the problem. Well, there's so many things that can go wrong that ultimately make a valve break. But okay, how do we deal with this pressure? I think it basically boils down to having the ultimate knowledge that you need to have as a manufacturer. That starts off basically from cradle to grave, from knowing what material to use, what coating to use for the right application, for the certain application. And we have that in-house knowledge. The company started off as a materials testing lab for the aerospace industry, for the big boys in aerospace. And with this materials knowledge, they then decided to go into manufacturing, and they entered into NASCAR with the titanium intake and titanium exhaust valve. And that over the years then spread out globally with a variety of alloys, titanium alloys, titanium aluminite, Waspaloy alloys. So we have this basic fundamental knowledge of materials that we then have converted to our own specification, have melted to our own specification and converted to our own specification. And then we know internally here on how to properly manufacture that raw material, that bar, into a valve or any other component for that matter. So that knowledge here is all in-house. We have all these processes that we control ourselves. It's basically from the time that we're forging a valve to the moment that we're shipping it to our customers, that is all done in-house. So that gives you a great control over your own processes. It's not that we order a forged valve from somebody else. It's not that we have our valve coated somewhere else. It's all done here. So when you control those processes, you can develop them further with your own proprietary technology and get this control over the full process. It's not easy. It takes many years to perfection that. But that is one of the key characteristics, I would say, to controlling the quality of the product that you ultimately send on to your customer. So that, in a way, then takes off the pressure that you're talking about. How do you deal with that? By basically getting your things straight in-house, by having the understanding and the quality gates that basically secure you from sending a good product to the customer ultimately.
So, Chad, when you're working back and forth, with Del West, and obviously, like I said, we're talking about failures and stuff. What part do you play in working back with the manufacturer and what you're seeing and trying to get it? I mean, I look at you, I guess, to a certain degree, you're going to be kind of like the middleman, right?
Yeah, we play middleman a lot of times. The good thing about our company at SRI is we are racers. We understand engines, race engines, so we can talk that shop with the customer. A lot of times we get the product back, we send it in for them. We try to ask all the pertinent questions about what happened. I will tell you that literally I've been working with Del West for 12 years, and I could count on one hand how many times that we've had to have product analyzed. And almost every single time it's a self-inflicted wound. Now, that's where you were talking earlier. That's where we can help in the beginning when a customer is trying to put the right product and apply it for an engine. We're asking questions about the camshaft, the valve springs, how we're setting it up. How is the engine going to perform? If we ask all the right questions in the beginning, normally these problems are avoided altogether. But sometimes you have to do some finite analysis. And I will tell you that Del West is an engineering company. They have a lot of sophisticated tools that can be very, very beneficial in this matter. A lot of times, it's just a very rare occurrence these days because the materials, the heat treats, and the coatings are so far superior. We have very, very few failures.
Well, I've been privileged to yesterday afternoon to spend some time talking with the folks from Mali, for example. And It's interesting that y'all are talking in the same terms. All of these products, when they work perfectly together, you've got, something that, as I said earlier, that it's all but bulletproof. How hard to run it, how hot to run it, how long to run it. I mean, everything about it, you guys are being able to now pinpoint better than ever before in the history, I think, of racing and high performance, of what the longevity and the expectations of an engine are, from the piston, the cranks, to the rods, and obviously the valves and the valve springs. So nothing lives forever. And I think that's the thing, is it developing the right line of communication when it comes to valves is the same thing. You can't put the wrong valve in a combination that all of a sudden spells disaster.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's very interesting that this is something that is universal within the world of engines and the products that go into an engine.
Well, I think that's a good point. Also, we've learned enough about all these different applications to understand the cycle times. Everybody is always chasing weight. The designs continue to get smaller and lighter and more aggressive, which makes the need for better material and heat treat and coating even more beneficial. But, that's the beauty of working with distribution, with Del West, working with SRI. We have an entire customer base that we can lean on other customers to see if they're having the same issues. Like if I'm selling that same product to another guy in the same arena and he's not having problems, then maybe that helps me help the customer that is having problems determine what the problems are so we can get past them and improve his program. It's really about, we work for the engine builder. That's what we do. We work for them. We're here to protect them. We're here to protect them with pricing. We're here to protect them from the racer, which a lot of times the racer is the one that, causes the problem. 9 times out of 10, problems are self-inflicted. But when we all communicate and talk together and we understand each other, it's a lot easier to determine these problems and get things back in order more quickly.
And I think that's where the strength actually is of our combination here. We're located sometimes further away from our customer base. SRI is right there in North Carolina and in Indianapolis, or close to Indianapolis. So it is great to have that group of support there from SRI that can reach out directly to the local engine builders, to the customers there. They have a great knowledge of engines and can talk and translate to us really on what the issues are. And then we can provide basically the technical backup there to show what is possible, or what alternatives there are. If we can do find an element analysis to provide a lighter and stronger valve. And so that's where this nice combination of two strengths come together here between Del West and SRI.
With that being said, Gita, is it when you try to get lighter and you're trying to do all the things that will make more horsepower and it gives you more opportunities to look down that road of better power, how do you blend the two as far as like new technology and materials? And then at the same time, are you fearful from time to time whenever somebody like NASCAR comes in and says, okay, we want these engines to run 3 times, 4 times. We want so many miles on them. Same way, like I say, in all 3 of the series there, whether it's trucks, Xfinity, or the Cup Series, and there's a lot of other, manufacturers, but series around the country now that are taking some of that same direction, trying to save teams money by saying you got to race an engine more than 1 time. So the parts become a lot more sensitive to, in my mind, of how you develop them, and yet at the same time don't create a problem for your company as well as a competitor.
So there have been a lot of threats over the, let's say, past 21 years that I've been working at Del West from those regulations. There's the threat of the electrical car. There's the threat of the hybrid car. The downsizing from a V12 to a V10 to a V8, and now in Formula One, a V6. With every change in regulation comes a certain time of development of coming to this new, let's say, engine, or this extra longevity that you need to get out of your engine. So there's more testing happening. It's not only the valves that we make for the weekend race, it's also the valves that we make here for all the development that continues to go on. So yes, volumes over those years have shrunk a lot. We don't see the sky is the limit attitude anymore. Budgets are limited. But if you continue to develop in-house with new processes, with new efficiencies, and with new alternatives on an engineering level or on a materials level, you now can provide extra service to the customer and a more exclusive exotic product that maintains your business, or it gives you the opportunity to run a healthy business, to continue running it. So one of the things that we have in our portfolio is an alloy that is not used and maybe even banned in NASCAR. It's titanium aluminide. It's roughly half titanium, half aluminum, and it's an exotic alloy that is used in turbines, in jet engines, and there are 2 manufacturers worldwide that actually make valves out of that. One in Germany, and the other one is us. So this is a highly specialized alloy that provides us now an opportunity to continue doing business as one of the unique valve suppliers in the world. Another alloy that is commercially available but not easy to forge and to machine and drill and hollow out is the wasp alloy valve, very often used in rally cars or basically turbocharged applications. It's a very commonly available or known nickel alloy, high temperature nickel alloy, but not everybody knows how to manufacture a proper valve out of that. So when you continue developing, you can counter those trends that are actually a threat to your business, and you can maintain a good business level, and you can continue to provide your customers with a good alternative to what is being banned, what is being written out of the rules, or to counter the trend where racing, unfortunately, is shrinking worldwide.
Yeah, that sounds challenging at least. And Chad, when it comes to, I'm sure that people are coming to you and asking you questions. Can they do something like this? How do you keep up with this kind of technology, that they're developing on a daily basis, or from year to year?
Well, thank goodness I have Guido on speed dial, and he does a great job of taking something that's really technical and explaining it in layman's terms. So it's good to have that kind of relationship. I mean, literally, we can talk anytime. The fact that they are in California means that they're working till 8 o'clock, which is good for us engine guys over here on the East Coast, because we work all the time. So it's good to have that communication at any time. And we also have implemented some things for the end user. We have a setup called Fast Track now, where we can take small block blanks and turn them into usable racing valves in 15 days or less. And we actually are linked into their software at SRI, where we actually draw the valve for the customer, and we immediately get a PDF file emailed to the customer within 10 minutes. They can look at their part and approve it, and in 15 days or less, it shows up at their doorstep. And if you've ever ordered a Del West valve, you understand that their manufacturing tolerances, their quality assurance is incredible. So every single time that we've done those types of rapid prototype orders, they've been spot on every time. So it's quite an engineering feat, and now it becomes quite easy to take that technical information, put it on paper, and the customer is the one that wins.
In a situation like it, again, it's phenomenal that you can do that. But where does that kind of idea come from? And Guido, does your company come up with that, or Chad, did you come up with that? Because again, you know how racers are. Everything's got to be, I need it now.
Well, actually, the way it was a wish list from my sales reps in my department here to have some sort of rapid prototyping situation. We've actually suggested the same thing to Mala. You mentioned Mala Pistons earlier. They're one of our major piston suppliers. Anytime, it's hard to put every flavor of ice cream for every engine application that's out there. Everybody has their own way of doing things. Now, if we don't have a stocking part number and you have to make a custom valve, normally that can take, 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the busy time. So if you give them an avenue to do it, in less than 2 weeks, and it's affordable and it works, it's pretty easy sell to the customer. So actually, we came up with the idea and they created it. So they did all the engineering and software to make it actually very, very usable. We just basically log on to their server, use their CAD software, and draw the valve, and within minutes it's approved by the customer. It's a really, really nice, quick, clean service.
Yeah, this is definitely something that SRI pushed hard for. So we had to internally develop that functionality, where they just have to log on to our system, enter the dimensions and the features of the valve, and within seconds it rolls out back at their side for approval to the customer. So that's a great benefit to have.
All right, Guido, you mentioned earlier, or Chad did one about the coatings. And I know that, from the experiences I've had with Chad's father, he knows a little bit about coatings. And so whatever you guys are doing must be impressing him, or he's got a pretty good understanding about it. But I've seen the early days of what coating means to racers. So what are you guys bringing forth now?
So what we've developed in-house, and this is not a system that we developed ourselves, but we have done our homework and research to determine what the best system out there and what the best coating out there is. So the push basically came from the series production market. There was a demand for a titanium series production valve. PVD coatings were around a little bit already in the late 90s, beginning of the 2000s, but it was always that you had to send your valve out to get coated somewhere. To be able to support this series production endeavor, we needed to get our coating system in-house. We needed to be able to coat a large amount of valves at the moment that we wanted it to get done with the best coating out there available. So back then, I still had a large engineering role, and I was involved in developing and finding the right system. So I've traveled to different countries to sit down with the engineers of the different coating systems, and then come back with the coating home, applied on valves, and we would then test it in a test cell that we had developed here. We had a test stand of a motorcycle engine that was quite aggressive on the valve, and we would we did probably hundreds of runs of testing of the different coating chambers, and we ultimately came back with this particular coating chamber that we have now. We would continue to see what is out there with respect to development of new chambers and new coatings, and we would use our current coating as the, let's say, test or the baseline. And every time we came back to, okay, what we currently have is the best coating out there that can withstand the most aggressive environment. So we continued over the years to test and use our coating as the baseline. And the feedback that I'm actually getting from SRI is that our customer base is really, really happy with the strength, the durability, and the adhesion of our coating.
Yeah, and if I might add to that, when he's referring to every stocking valve that they produce now comes with this coating added, and it really is baked into the cost. So you don't have to take your titanium valves and send them off to a coating company to have them done. And it is truly, I know I've been around coatings my whole career. I haven't seen a coating this robust and this good. I'll give you some examples in the dirt engine market, which they use a lot of titanium Valvetrain products. It's probably most aggressive on the valve seating area just because of the environment. Normally, unless it's a hollow stem or a 6 millimeter stem valve, these engines can run 2 full seasons with a set of valves, which that's a huge savings on the racer. And that's all due to the coating. The coating integrity in the valve seating area, it stays there. It keeps the valve seating properly, no cupping. Basically, they can clean the carbon off during a rebuild, slap them in, and run a whole entire other season. Now, there are limitations if you're running a hollow stem valve or like a 6 millimeter valve. There's a cycle life that you don't want to push that beyond. We understand what those are. We try to convey that to the customer. Obviously, we're here to sell parts, but more importantly, we're here to give them, the correct information.
So thank you for adding that, Chad. So what I forgot to mention here is, so this coating was developed basically for our series production line, but is currently used across all racing series as well. The difference here is basically the surface preparation. So what is critical for a coating to come out with the right surface finish and the right adhesion is to prepare the base surface, your substrate, properly. And you do that by 2 methods, by polishing the valve properly and by cleaning the valve thoroughly. So if you don't have those 2 aspects under control, you will not have a proper coating. So that then basically boils down to having a proper robotic polishing operation that we have in house for our series production valves, but of course also for our race valves, and to have a clean room in place. So right before the valves are entering the coating chamber, the valves are entering a clean room, basically a room that is certified weekly for particle count, where you have HEPA filtration and the air circulating so many times per hour, where you have people dressed up in, call it the clean room garment that you see in the chip industry. It's not that strict, but the similar attitude to cleanliness. You need to be dressed up. You need to wear spit masks so you don't accidentally sneeze on the product, or when you talk, you don't have anything splashing on the product that can lead to coating delamination ultimately. So that valve enters a clean room, goes through a multi-stage ultrasonic and rinsing and drying system, and then comes out sparkling clean, so to say, then gets transferred over directly to the coating chamber and receives its coating. So only when you have those processes and those quality steps properly developed, then you can guarantee, or then you can rely on the quality of your coating.
Now, real quick, and some of the notes they gave me, to kind of get prepped up for our discussion today. Are you referring to the CRN coating? Is that what we're referring to here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the coating that is generally applied to the seat and the tip, and for most valves also on the stem. So it is a coating that is robust enough and let's say functional enough to work very well on all three surfaces. So yeah, that's the coating that we're talking about.
I mean, I just think it's phenomenal, because again, the Dirt Series getting, a Valvetrain to last, potentially 2 full seasons is, again, it's kind of like that, nice to be able to build a budget like that and feel confident, you can get that kind of mileage out of it. I think it's pretty phenomenal.
But so you need to have your ducks in a row. And for people that are involved in the, let's call it the PVD, CVD coating industry, and that have visited the different coaters out there, the job shops, it is not really that common to have a clean room approach to coating a race car product, a PVD product. So very often it is cleaner, but you don't have the ultimate attitude of trying to be very, very clean with a separate conditioned room. And that makes us, I believe, a little bit unique here, even in the general job shop coating industry, to make sure that this room is free from any dust, from any machining mist or what have you, to maintain that as a very clean and restricted room where you can only go into when you're dressed up properly.
Right. So Chad, all of the stuff that, we've been talking about up to now, how much of this have you witnessed, about you travel out to Del West and you've been to their facility and everything?
Yeah, usually once, maybe twice a year, I'll make a trip to California. We'll spend a few days and see what's new at the facility. I've seen every step of the way, every machine, every process. I've been in the clean room. It's like walking into a Dell factory, like he said, a chip manufacturer. They have a very interesting robot that does the polishing. I think they call it Fred and Angie. It does this wonderful dance together. Did I get that right, Guido?
Fred and Ginger.
Fred and Ginger. Okay. A little bit before my time, but anyway. But yeah, they have.
Come on, Chad. I know why your daddy didn't told you about Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. I mean, come on now.
Right. But yes, I have seen it. They have they have the edge of manufacturing technology and coating, and they incorporate that into their products. That's why they work well. That's why we love them, and we've had a lot of success. In fact, we're talking about the racing industry. I think SRI has put forth possibly 2 to 3 of the top sales days in our history in the last 3 days. So the phones are ringing off the hook. the products flying off the shelf. Guido, you're going to be getting some large purchase orders. We're pretty excited. I know it's a tough time right now, but guys are getting geared up and spending money for next season already, even earlier than anticipated. So it's very exciting.
Okay, when you say it like that right there, is there a movement that you can, or a trend that we're looking at right now when you say something like that? Is it more dirt racers, more short track racers? I mean, what is kind of like,
well, particularly dirt racing and things like outlaw street racing is really taking a big push. I think Guido would attest. We've started doing a lot of pro mod valves, a lot different, larger horsepower applications. It looks like, dirt racing is super strong right now. Sprint car racing, dirt late model, modified, as well as this drag racing market. I know the NHRA had they had a tough season, like most forms of racing, but we're getting a lot of calls for like your more alternative drag racing, street outlaw type stuff, and guys are willing to step up and put the better quality products in their engines.
interesting. We've been talking about the coating side of it. Do you have a lot of people right now that are choosing not to have their valves coated for a reason or not?
Well, no. In fact, Del West does their coating very affordably, so it's baked into the price. We don't actually give them a choice. Honestly, we go ahead and produce the product already coated with their coating, and we have no complaints. I mean, if you had to have those products made and sent off to be coated, I mean, it is quite a bit of an additional expense. Now, there are guys that prefer, like in certain applications, to run DLC on the head of the valve.
Mm-hmm.
And there are situations where we will have them made without the coating. But I would run Del West CRN coating over any other PVD style coating out there. I believe that strongly in it. I've seen the results. It's very impressive.
Predominantly, I would say our chrome nitride PVD coating is used. We have the option of applying the DLC in our Swiss office as well, where they have a couple of DLC chambers. So we can do this in-house as well, so to say. But the commonly used chrome nitride coating is, or sorry, the commonly used seed coating is, or stem coating is chrome nitride across all series. And then you see an engine builder or a team here or there that then opts for the DLC coating. It's the preference of the engine builder, and I guess if they see or perceive to see a difference running DLC, we can of course do that, no problem.
Okay. Well, Chad, let me ask you this. Like I say, you've been around the coating business a long time. Today, based off of, like I say, talking to Mala, they got certain parts of their skirts sometimes that got coatings on them. And internally, how many different parts and pieces are probably coated today compared to the in the beginning? I mean, it's.
Well, I think back when you and my father raced together, I think you guys were probably one of the first ever in the sport of NASCAR to actually start coating engine bearings and pistons and that type of thing. I would say 80% of the parts that are in these engines now in NASCAR are coated in some sort of way. Obviously, your pistons, your Valvetrain products, your bearings. We're doing things now with like some of your fuel pump manufacturers, where we do the pump housings, the gears. It's all, even things like blowers, housings, and enforced induction situations. But again, it has to be the right coating for the application. There is a lot of snake oil, mystery oil salesmen out there. We don't believe in that. That's where I had a pretty good teacher in that respect. But yeah, a majority of what goes into these engines now, the quality of the materials, the quality of the coatings, the heat treatments. That's why you don't see the failures that you once did. The parts are just way better. The technology is there for everyone to take advantage of, not just Formula One and NASCAR. Now you see it all the way down to street level and, in the smallest forms of grassroots dirt racing.
Yeah, but what I'm taking out of the conversation with you two gentlemen is that because of so much, you got the coatings and stuff built into the price, and you're making your product based off of everybody wants Del West product. You don't want to make something or take something away from a product that makes it more durable.
Right.
So it's almost like the grassroots guys are getting the best of the best because it just works better across the whole realm of racing. Is the way I look at it. It's like, say, at one time, you would pay for something special, but you
Right.
guys make it special every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and sometimes
It's built in, and it's like you're crazy not to. And Hendrick Motorsports or Roush Yates is going to have it just like it'd be if you're a Ferrari, or whether or not you're Jeff Hammond going over here to the local quarter-mile dirt track to run some Friday night. My stuff is as good as anybody else in the world.
Yeah, and I tell people a lot. I deal with John Force Racing, have for years, and I got guys come up off the street, and you treat everyone the same. John Force is no different than your B-Mod racer on Saturday night at East Lincoln Speedway.
Okay.
You have the ability to get similar products and quality that the very top racers do. And now with Guido and the hard work of those guys, I mean, they work constantly on how to manufacture more cost effectively, offer these services like the fast track, which benefit, allow the grassroots racer to get on that same level as a cup team.
So what you get here is basically the vast experience that we have with our customers worldwide. So we're dealing with virtually everybody out there, which means that we have to be very careful to not transfer any secrets from one team to another. They need to be able to trust us. They need to be able to come with their problems and their proprietary knowledge and be able to discuss a solution. But over the years, you see that certain information spreads from team to team and it becomes commonly available. So it's not that proprietary anymore. The biggest, let's say, leak that you have of your proprietary knowledge is not necessarily at your supplier, but from the engineers hopping from team to team. So certain knowledge becomes, let's say, generally available, and you can now apply that, what you learned in Formula One, what you learned in MotoGP, what you learned in NASCAR, you can apply that to your other product worldwide. So everybody, when you have that knowledge all in-house and you're dealing with all those customers, you basically become versatile and you have solutions available in your portfolio that you can provide to anyone out there, especially when you have all those processes in-house. That makes it super easy because you have control over it. You know what the problems are, you know what the possibilities are, and that then provides a solution for any of your customers, so to say. So that is one of our key strengths here, that we don't shop or we don't have other vendors supplying us with a variety of different coatings, or we're leaving a half product at the doorstep of the customer. We're delivering a finished product that goes through different quality gates with processes that are developed in-house that we totally understand.
Okay, same question to you, Gita. Do you go, I know you said you're not traveling a lot in 2020, but prior to that, do you go to a lot of the different engine builders and visit, like say with Doug Yates and people like that, personally, so you guys can talk about techniques, talk about ideas and futures?
Right. So there are a lot of customers that we don't visit that we're basically leaning on SRI to support us in that, and that's their strength. Because let's face it, the market is quite scattered, with a lot of small guys that need to have a focal point, somebody they can talk to, and SRI is very, very helpful and supports us in a great sense there. When it comes to, let's call it the international customers or the larger NASCAR teams, we deal with them directly. So traveling means traveling to the south. Then we have some racing teams here in California, and traveling to Japan and traveling to Europe. And yeah, that's what I miss, that personal contact, sitting down with the engineers and the purchasing people, and trying to find out what the current needs are while you're sipping on your little espresso in northern Italy. That is one of my favorite things.
Hey, real quick, Tom Fry has got a question for you guys, and he was asking, do you coat just the intake valves, or do you also have a coating for that will withstand the exhaust temperatures, or is it one and the same?
Well, yes, we do. We certainly coat the exhaust valves as well in the same process. It totally withstands the temperatures of exhaust in racing. Guido can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so the chrome nitride coating starts to, I think, break apart at about 850 Celsius. And that's definitely not a temperature that you want to run your titanium valve at, because it would fail already at that point. So it can definitely withstand the operating temperatures. At the seat, of course, that can be a hot spot, but you're cooling that most of the time when the valve is closed. And the port area in general is not coated, because you don't want to coat this, let's say, failure-prone area with high bending stresses, because the chrome nitride coating lowers the fatigue strength of the whole valve. So generally, what we do, especially for the smaller valves that tend to bend a little bit more in the port area, we mask that area so we don't have any coating deposition, and then you have the normal base fatigue strength of the titanium. So yeah, no problem. Both sides, intake and exhaust, are coated with chrome nitride.
Okay. I guess one of the next things that I'm curious about is that we're talking about your valve. What about the valve spring? What about the keepers and stuff that go with all that, Chad? I mean, if I'm an engine guy coming in and we're going to discuss a valve, do you help this engine builder come up with the rest of the package?
Absolutely. That's one of my most favorite part of my jobs is we actually have a good working relationship with some of the spring manufacturers. We do have manufacturers that we recommend that actually produce a higher quality wire with a higher quality polish that a lot of your high-end racers use. Yes, we totally like to help spec out the process with the end user. That's where usually the mistakes are made when going with the wrong spring. It's usually something else that leads to if there is some sort of valve or valve part failure, it's usually the spring is misapplied for the lift and the cam and the application that we're working with. So by all means, we suggest that they contact us. We have a sophisticated spring calculators where we can set up based off of the weights, based off the cam shaft, based off the application, and basically mock up the system on the computer and say, hey, this looks like this is going to work great. We do have specs and parameters. Luckily, I was lucky enough to work with Doug Yates and Roush Yates for 8 years. It was an accelerated engine university where I learned a lot about valve springs, how important they are, and how to apply them. So yes, we do that here with a lot of customers at SRI, and I've got some really great guys on staff that understand different engines. I got a guy who's good with tractor pulling and drag racing, another guy that's good with street racing. I handle most of your circle track and your higher end drag racing applications. But yeah, we totally can spec out valve springs, get you in the correct keeper retainer setup. And that's really what it's about. If you just provide one piece of the puzzle, you're not giving them a service.
And that's, if I may add, that's the strength of our combination here. You can ask me anything about the manufacturing and the fundamentals and the development of our Valvetrain components, but the best support on what component to use with the other component, that combination, that knowledge, that comes from SRI. So undoubtedly, if you need to have advice on what exactly to use, he is your man, Chad, here, and they support us greatly in that, because we don't have that knowledge in-house, but the combination does wonders.
Yeah,
I mean, again, it's fascinating, and that, I think the word that I'm taking away from this week so far on all the people I've talked to that were derived back into the engine business is the platform and trying to come up with whatever, the application. The word has to be application, because the piston guy versus the valve guy versus the valve spring guy, everybody, it integrates and ties in like a really, really, beautiful thing when you do it right.
Yeah, and if I might add, I mean, there's nothing more.
Yes.
Yeah, if I may add, there's nothing more exciting than when a customer calls, he's experiencing some problems, he has some questions, and you help them change their Valvetrain system around and get them in the right products, the right spec products, and that it performs. And then you have a friend and a customer for life. That too is the tough part about this year is I miss all those guys. There's people all around the country that I go see every year, and I look forward to it. And we get caught up on what's new with their engines and their shop, and we get caught up on their life. And again, that's the best part of the job right there is, helping someone make their program better. I think that's what we're here to do. I think that's what we're all here to do.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. Steve Francis is sitting here. He's looking at me, and I know it means time to move along, but it's been very interesting. Great to catch up with you, Chad, and get a chance to see you doing a great job, young man. Pleasure to meet you, Guido. And I look forward to someday maybe getting a chance to meet you or see you again personally and meet you personally. And so take her away there, Francie.
Same here, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Guido. Special thanks to Chad and everyone at SRI again, to help us being part of launching EPARTRADE. So thank you very much.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. Fill out your name, email, phone number, and create a secure password. Next, select your business type. Choose supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose racing business if you're looking to find new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose race team if you own or are a member of a professional racing team. Begin typing your company name. We most likely already have your company in our database, which you can select from the drop-down. Then, enter your job title. Choose Claim Company if you'll be editing your company profile. Other members of your company can choose Join Company if they'd like to use EPARTRADE as well. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Click Register Now, and your registration will be submitted for approval. You'll need to confirm your email once it goes through. To keep our platform industry only, you'll be approved shortly after. If we require additional proof of business, we'll reach out. Welcome to EPARTRADE.